It's kind of awkward. He wasn't here, but we're all clapping for him. That's all right. Next up, we've got Alan Pye out of King of Prussia. Alan's going to be talking about a subject that's probably near and dear to everyone's heart, the balance between work and life. And Alan's got quite an interesting take on this balance, and he wants to change your perspective about how you can look at it. So without further ado, Mr. Alan Pye.
Thank you. Work-life balance. We all want it, right? Or at least we're supposed to want it. We've seen posters, we've gotten brochures, we've seen briefings, we've seen infographics, how-tos, tutorials. There's even a work-life balance for dummies guidebook out there. The other day I searched on the term work-life balance and I found nearly 200 million hits. It's like a holy grail for human resources and for life coaches. For those of you that aren't familiar with the term, work-life balance is a big idea that's meant to inform our sensibility about how we make decisions of how we're going to spend our time and architect our focus when it comes to the things in our workplace and the things in our lives. It's the subject of all kinds of seminars and training and coaching, and it's really something that many people have found to be very useful as a concept for guiding how they do things, and it seems to be practical for some people to look at it this way. But I got to tell you, it's just never made sense to me. The whole idea of this work-life balance just challenges me. The idea of putting all that we have in our work and our life on a scale to balance it out just doesn't make sense to me. Is work not living somehow? Am I not alive when I work? And is work not part of my life? And furthermore, is really work and life a fair way to describe everything that's a part of me? As far as I know, there's a lot more to my life. Think about it. There's my work time, yes, but there's my resting time, my exercise time, my learning time, my volunteering time, my spiritual time, my entertainment time, all sorts of ways that are all things that yell for my attention in my life. And all of these things have to be somehow put together into one lump on one side of a scale. I kind of picture a different way of looking at this. A scale with dishes arrayed all around it. And on each of these dishes might be some of the things that we're trying to balance. But still, take a look. Does that look like a practical place to balance everything or anything? Our lives are full of things that keep changing and priorities that keep magnifying themselves into different levels. And our life is full of all sorts of things that would drive us to something different than a balance. Is it possible to put the same level of emphasis on all of these things and have that work for us? The fact is, our life keeps changing. Our priorities keep changing. And that's something that we get to deal with on an ongoing basis. I'll use my life and career as an example. So I came into the workplace fresh out of college. I got my first big boy paycheck. That was pretty cool. Gave me a good idea that I should probably make work a good priority. But I also had some outside activities to keep that balance, going to rock and jazz shows, a little clubbing with friends, a small amount of exercise. I had a 20-year-old metabolism and had to let that do most of the work for me. But then I met this great girl, Lisa. And this was a relationship I wanted to put as much of my effort into as I could, because this was going to be something big in my life. And we got married. Yesterday was our 26th wedding anniversary. Thank you. And then came a daughter, Grace. And soon we were involved with all of her activities. But then at work, I was interested. Should I go after a graduate degree? But there were promotions from individual contributor to project leader to governance program manager to product owner to systems architect, all sorts of things that increased my responsibility. But then my parents were getting older as well, and they needed help with their house, even help with their health as time went on. And changes here in the workplace keep drawing my attention. In fact, I was on my 21st month of working temporary assignments while looking for a full-time position when I got the word that I would be able to do this tech talk. My goodness, when you look at the way that our lives are so complex, is balance possible? Is it even preferable? It seems as though imbalance might be what we really want when you get right down to it. And it does sound, according to work-life balance, as though once we get it right, once we find that balance, we're done. We got it. It's good. But these things keep on changing. They keep changing in our lives, and they keep pressing on our ability to do this well. And these are all challenges that we have to face on a daily basis. You know, sometimes I have to take that phone call that is about the problem that my daughter is facing while I'm here at work. And sometimes when I'm at home, I have to take the phone call about the problem that just came to life at work. And sometimes the volunteering that I'm doing at church or in community theater is going to have to be resolved at work or at home because there's just something that has to be worked. These are all boundaries that are very naturally disrupted. And that gets to another piece of what I find really uncomfortable about this work-life balance concept. It seems to indicate that we need to segregate our lives, segregate our identity even, into these separate categories, that somehow we have to change our behavior in each of these places. Well, that's tricky too. If I'm going to take that phone call at work, will it short my workday and leave the workplace at a disadvantage? If I'm going to take that phone call at home, will my family suffer, and how will that work? When it comes right down to this, all of this is about our maturity, maturing. As we gain more experience in dealing with all of these challenges and all of these priorities, we get a little bit more able to make decisions, a little bit more facile with the way that these decisions can work. We get to understand a little bit more about where these boundaries exist, where they can be broken down, how they can mix together, how they can work together to make our lives useful. Well, this is why I've been up on a soapbox for a long time, complaining that work-life balance didn't make sense. Now, I've suggested that maybe work-life integration might ring a little bit more true, that as we mesh these things together and meld them together, we have a little better chance of making all of this work. But I want to introduce you to a new concept, a fresh concept that maybe will challenge you in a different way. It's one that moves past work-life balance, beyond work-life integration, toward peace. Now, when I say peace, you're probably thinking about a lack of strife, a lack of conflict in both your world and in your body, in your mind. But I want to give you a slightly different view. The Jewish word for peace is shalom. The word shalom has a slightly deeper meaning. Shalom tells us about soundness and completeness in our lives. And shalom can have the denotation of either having soundness and completeness in our lives or moving toward soundness and completeness in our lives. And in that, I think there's the opportunity for us to look at this just a little bit differently. Now, that doesn't sound like a lack of strife if you think about it. Because finding that completeness, finding that soundness is often about the conflict that we have to overcome, about the challenges that we have to face, about the things that we learn in the process. Each of those are opportunities for us to learn and grow a little closer to what a complete and sound life might look like for us. So what might all of this look like in a life? What's it look like in my life? I'll be the first to admit, I am constantly learning more about what it might mean to live a complete life, about how these things might fit together, and about what would make sense as I try to find that soundness and completeness. My life keeps on changing. The things that are going on in my life keep pressing on those capabilities and those decision-making choices so that I get to learn and continue to learn. So I think I have 5 things to offer you to help you to think about this in your life. The first thing that I'd offer would be this. Don't let balance beat you up. Don't let this concept of having to find balance beat you up. Our lives do keep changing. They keep moving in different directions. Things become more important. The priorities are always moving in some direction. And that doesn't sound like balance at all. If you consider how little that is like balance, you can stop beating yourself up, stop trying to make a tally, stop worrying about that. I know in my life, in my marriage, I've had to be very careful not to try to find exactly a balance, because there are always more things that want to take up not just a fair amount of my time, not even a rational amount of my time, but there's always something calling to me. But that does bring me to the next point for you, and that is integrity. All of this calls for us to treat it with honesty and with integrity. That's the only way we can come to a good place in balancing these things out, or finding a good level in all of this. Our workplace demands honesty in all that we do, and integrity in the way that we work and the way that we bill our work. And our families need the best of what we can offer them, the honest best of what we can do. And each of these areas of interest to us, the areas of our passion, real passion, are very worthy, at least in our own estimation. And each of them deserves what we can give to them honestly. The call really is to look at this for how we can give our honest best to each area. But my next point is, it will never work if you try to give more than enough to everything. There are not enough hours in any day or any week to fulfill all of the expectations that are on us across all of the areas of our interest. And though we try to balance them, the only thing that the world will do is try to put it all on our shoulders and make us balance, and our mortal capabilities are not enough. I turn to a quotation that a human factors engineer that I used to manage would offer on a regular basis. There's a French writer, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who said, "Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away." We really won't find peace or soundness or completeness by piling on more and more and saying yes to everything. I'm very guilty of being one who would say yes to going and helping with something at church, or helping with the community theater, and going directly from work to a meeting, or work to the theater, or work to this or that, day after day after day. And still, when there's a day on the calendar that has nothing scheduled, saying yes to that. It was a very, very important and useful trick to treat my mind, to know that when there's a date on the calendar that's not scheduled, I should schedule it as a date to do nothing at all. This question of integrity is also helped by the fact that we are one person in all that we do. The other definition of the word integrity is about wholeness and completeness. We aren't actually a different person when we go from one place to another, even if we choose to behave differently. Choosing to behave differently is a trick that we're playing on ourselves. It has a psychic cost. It's fibs that we tell ourselves to make that behavior feasible in different places. But if we drop the fibs, it's so much easier for us to find a peace, to find a completeness, to find a soundness in our lives. And my 5th point is really this: forgiveness. Forgiveness is really important in this. You need to be able to forgive yourself when you don't work these things out in the ways that you'd like to. And it's going to happen. and forgive others when they don't help you to work things out in the ways that make the most sense, because that will happen too. Holding on to the resentment, no matter who is the subject of that resentment, will not help you find peace. But letting go of that will help you and any others move toward their particular peace, their particular soundness. So if I can do anything for you today, I would love to leave you with the permission to think differently about this, to move beyond work-life balance and the trap that creates for you, and move toward that concept of peace and soundness and completeness in the way that you handle the things that are before you, toward your shalom. Now, I don't think that would make a very good poster. So how about this? Don't be fooled or ruled by the balance scale. Thank you.
That was